Sometimes the most dangerous things in our homes are the ones we look at every single day and just think nothing of. Today, we're going to talk about one of those. We'll break down a recent, really tragic event to understand a common but so often overlooked danger, the portable gas canister. Okay, let's get right into it.
So, let's set the scene. It's April 4th in an apartment building on Petergofskoe Highway in St. Petersburg. What started out as just a totally normal day turned into a nightmare, an emergency that ended up holding a really crucial lesson for all of us about home safety.
And there it is. That's the preliminary finding from the investigation. It's blunt, it's shocking, and it points the finger at this small, unassuming object. This wasn't some kind of faulty wiring or a forgotten pan on the stove. It was a portable gas canister, the exact kind that so many of us have stashed away somewhere.
And this is where it gets really tough. This is the human cost. 3 kids were rushed to the hospital, suffering from smoke inhalation and burns. It's a truly terrifying outcome that just hammers home why we absolutely have to understand the risks we're dealing with.
So this awful story out of St. Petersburg really forces us to ask a much bigger question, right? Why are these things so common in the first place? Let's take a look at why they've become such a normal item in so many of our homes.
Well, the reasons are pretty simple, and they make a lot of sense. They're great for camping trips, a total lifesaver when the power goes out, and they're just easy. They feel simple and safe. But that feeling, that seemingly harmless part, that's exactly what makes them so incredibly dangerous.
And that's really the heart of the problem here. We weigh the convenience against a risk we don't really understand. Inside that little metal can is highly pressurized, flammable gas. It's basically a miniature bomb, just waiting for the wrong set of conditions to go off. So how does something like that actually happen? It's not some freak accident. It's just simple physics. And honestly, understanding the science behind it is the #1 step you can take to prevent a disaster in your own home.
The most common way these things explode is maybe the most surprising. It's something called the temperature trap. So picture this. You bring a canister inside from your cold car, or maybe you just bought it, and you put it down in your warm apartment. That liquid gas inside starts to expand, fast. If that canister was even a tiny bit overfilled, or if it has any kind of defect, that pressure has nowhere to go. Boom.
And it's not just the temperature trap. There are other huge dangers. Overfilling is a big no-no, which is why you should only buy from brands you trust. You should never, ever use a canister that's dented, rusty, or past its expiration date. And of course, keep them away from any heat source, a stove, a radiator, even just direct sunlight streaming through a window. That's absolutely critical.
Okay, so we get it. We know the dangers now. So let's get to the most important part. What are the clear, actionable rules to keep your family safe? This isn't about being scared. It's about being smart and being prepared.
All right, the single most important rule is all about storage. Just look at that don't column. Inside your apartment, on the balcony, in the basement. These are literally prohibited by official fire safety regulations, and for good reason. The only truly safe place is outside your home, in a locked, ventilated, non-combustible cabinet, well away from any doors.
Now, when you're actually using the stove, the rules are just as serious. A wobbly table is just asking for trouble. But I really want to call out one point here. Never, ever put a portable gas stove on top of your main electric stovetop. People do it, they forget the electric burner's on, it heats the canister from below, and you can guess what happens next. It happens way more often than you'd think.
Okay, let's circle all the way back to that incident in St. Petersburg. Remember, it started with careless handling by children. This brings us to a really vital point about our responsibility as adults. We just can't assume our kids know these dangers. We have to explicitly teach them.
And these lessons have to be simple and direct. These are not toys. They are tools for adults, period. The kitchen is a no-play zone when cooking is happening. And you have to empower them with that last rule. If you smell something funny or see something that doesn't look right, tell a grown-up immediately. That one rule could literally save a life.
Look, even with all the best precautions in the world, things can still go wrong. Knowing exactly what to do in an emergency without panicking is your single most powerful tool.
If you smell gas, your #1 goal is to avoid creating a single spark. That's it. That's why you don't touch light switches, you don't unplug anything. That tiny little electrical arc is more than enough to ignite the gas in the air. So get the windows open, get everybody out, and only then do you call for help from a safe distance.
If it's a fire, your first action is always the same.
call the professionals. Your life is infinitely more important than your stuff. Now, if, and only if, the fire is tiny and contained, you can try to put it out. But if you have any doubt at all, just get out. Close the door behind you to slow the fire down and yell to let your neighbors know what's happening.
Here are the numbers. Seriously, they should be in your phone right now and maybe written down on a note on your fridge. You have to know them by heart. In a moment of sheer panic, you don't want to be fumbling around trying to find who to call. It's 101 for fire, 104 for gas, and 112 for any and all emergencies.
So, we've covered a lot today, from that awful tragedy to the hard and fast safety rules. But information is only useful if you actually do something with it. So the real question isn't just about what you've learned today. It's about what you're going to do now. Take 5 minutes right after this and do a safety check. For real. Ask yourself, where is my gas canister right now?